Hey everyone, welcome to the online program of Amrita Civil Service Academy. My name is Joy. In this video, we'll be having the weekly analysis of the daily MCQs of the second week of May. So we'll go into the questions directly. The first question: consider the following statements about the Western Ghats. So the first statement is they are also known as Sahyadri in certain parts of India. The second statement is Kaveri and Vamsadhara river originate in the Western Ghats. Now, these are known as two statement questions, and they are one of the most difficult questions for an aspirant to attend in this exam. So what we'll be trying to do is we'll try to understand the easier parts we can identify in this question. So one thing which we always notice, it is known as Sahyadri in certain parts of India. Now, Sahyadris are referred to the Western Ghats they are referred to as Sahyadris in Maharashtra and in certain parts of Karnataka. So that is actually a well-known fact and we can go with it. So first statement is correct. Second statement, Kaveri and Vamsadhara river originate in the Western Ghats. We are sure about Kaveri, we are not really sure about Vamsadhara. But generally, the majority of the rivers, while they do originate in Western Ghats, there are certain rivers which do not originate in Western Ghats. So keeping that in mind, and since we haven't heard the name of Vamsadhara, it is either a 50-50 chance. But actually, the correct answer, if you look at it, it's actually answer A, because Vamsadhara does not originate in the Western Ghats. If you look into the explanation, the statement 1 says Western Ghats are also known as Sahyadri in certain parts of India. They run parallel to the western coast of India. Statement 2 is not correct because although most of the peninsular rivers drain to the Bay of Bengal, their origin point is the Western Ghats. Important rivers such as Tungabhadra, Krishna, Godavari have their origin point in the Western Ghats, and Kaveri originates at Talakaveri in Karnataka and flows through Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. But river Vamsadhara or river Banshadharais is an important east-flowing river between Rushikulya and Godavari in Odisha and in Andhra Pradesh states of India. It does not actually originate in the Western Ghats, whereas Kaveri does originate in the Brahmagiri hills of Western Ghats, especially in Talakaveri, and flows through Karnataka and Tamil Nadu for a distance of nearly 800 kilometers before flowing into the Bay of Bengal. So that is the answer, and we'll go for the next question. Consider the following statements about the Bureau of Energy Efficiency. It is an agency under the administrative control of Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. The second statement is, it has formulated the star labeling program under the Energy Conservation Act of 2001. And the third one is the Urja Dakshata information tool known as the UDIT portal is launched by BEE with the World Resources Institute. So the question is, which of the above mentioned statements are correct? Now, taking into account that the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy actually looks into the recent new and renewable energy resources like solar, wind, and other forms of alternative energy sources. Whereas the star labeling program is not necessarily isolated to that. We are all familiar with the star rating given to our home appliances like ACs, fridge, washing machine. So I don't think, taking that logic into account, it is not necessary that it has to come under the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, because that is a more apt ministry known as the Ministry of Power, which deals with electricity as such. So taking that logic into your mind, if you look at it, you'll know that the first statement seems highly illogical. You remove the first statement from the options. What is given is 1 and 2 only, 2 and 3, and 1 and 3 and all of the above. You take away option 1, automatically you can make an assessment that the largest possibility is in option B, which is 2 and 3. You read the second statement again. It has formulated the star labeling program under the Energy Conservation Act of 2001. Yes, it is quite possible. Urja Dakshata Information Tool, UDIT portal, is launched by BEE with the World Resources Institute. Yes. Now, to make such an analysis like I made now, to understand which body can come under which ministry, it is necessary for one to know which are the ministries available, which are present in the Indian government, what are their main functions and everything. As you learn through the process, you will get that inside your head. Presently, it may not be possible because you do not have the necessary information to understand all these things. But if you at least read the newspaper clearly, you would have definitely known that it is not the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, but it is the Ministry of Power. So we look into the explanation. The correct answer is B, and the explanation is statement 1 is not correct. The Bureau of Energy Efficiency is an agency of the Government of India under the Ministry of Power, created in March 2002 under the provisions of the Energy Conservation Act of 2001. And the statement 2 is correct because the star labeling program has been formulated by the Bureau of Energy Efficiency under the Energy Conservation Act of 2001. The third statement is Urja Dakshata Information Tool, or UDIT, is a user-friendly platform that explains the energy efficiency landscape of India across industry, appliances, building, transport, municipal and agriculture sectors. It has been taken by BEE with the World Resources Institute. So that is for the second question. The next question is, in context of Rabindranath Tagore, consider the following statements. First statement, he became the first Indian to receive a Nobel Prize in literature for his novel Gitanjali. He wrote the national anthems of India and Bangladesh. Choose the correct quote. Now, the first statement is a fact. Many of us know it. Even if you don't know it, please understand that Dr. Rabindranath Tagore was the first Indian to receive a Nobel Prize in literature for his seminal work Gitanjali. The second thing, he wrote the national anthems of India and Bangladesh. It is true because in that time, that was the era before the partition, and Bangladesh, since the partition did not happen, the national anthems of India, which was also written by Dr. Rabindranath Tagore, along with the national anthem of Bangladesh. We look at the explanation. The answer is C. Explanation of statement 1 is correct because Rabindranath Tagore, born 1861, who passed away in 1941, popularly known as Gurudev, was born in an affluent family. The maestro was fascinated by the worlds of literature, art, music, and dance at an early age. In 1913, he became the first Indian to receive a Nobel Prize in Literature for his novel Gitanjali. The statement 2 is correct because he wrote the national anthems of India and Bangladesh. If you look at why is that in the news, because the National Gallery of Modern Art has organized a virtual tour to commemorate the 159th birth anniversary of Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore. Next question. In context of excise duty, consider the following statements. It is a form of tax imposed on goods for their production, licensing, and sale. Second statement is, excise duty on items like alcohol, alcoholic preparations, and narcotic substances is imposed and collected by central government. Choose the correct code. 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2, none of the above. Now again, it's a two-statement question, so there is a difficulty to it. But if we use our logic, and if we are well aware of the current status happening across the country, we'll be definitely able to attend this question. We'll take this. It is a form of tax imposed on goods for their production, licensing, and sale. Yes, you'll have to pay excise duty for that because it is a tax on production, licensing, and sale. That is a fact. One must learn it. The second statement, excise duty on items like alcohol, alcoholic preparations, and narcotic substances is imposed and collected by central government. Now, as a common man, it is really well known that many of the alcoholic taxes are taken by the state government. That is why there is a variation in tax between the union territories and the state government rates. So taking that logic into account, we can understand that it is not necessarily the central government alone which is imposing tax, but the possibility of the state government is also available. Keeping that in mind, we remove the second statement. The possibility is the first statement. Now, what exactly, in the explanation, we'll be learning what exactly is excise duty. Answer is A. Explanation statement 1 is correct because excise duty is a form of tax imposed on goods for their production, licensing, and sale. It is the opposite of customs duty in sense that it applies to goods manufactured domestically in the country, while customs is levied on goods coming from outside of the country. The statement 2 is not correct because excise duty in India is predominantly a central levy. The duty on production of some items like alcohol, alcoholic preparations, and narcotic substances is imposed and collected by the state governments, because for many of these states it is the second largest tax revenue after the sales tax or the state VAT, value added tax. The next question is, recently the government has launched the Vande Bharat mission to, option A, evacuate Indian nationals stranded abroad due to the coronavirus lockdown, promote Make in India in defense and space sector, promote building of semi-high speed intercity electrical multiple unit, and help cyclone hit Madagascar. So the recent news always talks about the coronavirus, and as a part of it, it is very clear that the operation Vande Bharat mission is actually executed by the Indian government to rescue stranded Indian nationals. So this has been being repeatedly asked in the current affairs. So this is a fairly well-known fact. I believe everybody will know. So we'll go for the explanation. The answer is A. The explanation is, in one of the largest evacuation exercises named the Vande Bharat mission, the government will operate 64 flights to bring home nearly 14,800 Indian nationals stranded abroad due to the coronavirus lockdown. The next question. The Sundarban National Park is included in which of the following? So the first statement is UNESCO World Heritage Site List, the Ramsar Site List. It's a part of, third statement is it's a part of Project Tiger. And the fourth statement, it's a part of the World Network of Biosphere Reserve or the Man and Biosphere Reserve. Sundarbans, we look at the options 1, 2, and 3 only, 2, 3, and 4 only, 1 and 4 only, all of the above. Now, Sundarbans is a large contiguous mangrove forest present in West Bengal. It actually extends also into the country of Bangladesh. Taking these into account, we must know that Sundarbans is a really important national park in India. And if you read the article, or if you have any, as you go through your preparation, you'll understand, you'll learn about the various titles and tags that Sundarban has. So definitely we can say that it is a part of Project Tiger, because there are tigers present inside the Sundarbans. So if you take that into account, option 3 is present in A, B and D, and it's a part of the UNESCO World Heritage Site list too. If you take that into account, it's also present in option A, C and D. So frankly saying, if you know about Sundarbans, if you learn about it, you will definitely understand that it is actually a part of all these sites. It's a part of the UNESCO World Heritage Site, it's a part of the Ramsar site, it's a part of Project Tiger, it's also part of the World Network of Biosphere Reserves. So taking that into account, since it's a factual question, we can't actually use too much logic to eliminate something. We go for the explanation. The Sundarbans National Park is a national park, tiger reserve and biosphere reserve in West Bengal of India. On May 4th, 1984, it was declared as a national park. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site inscribed in 1987, and it has been designated as a Ramsar site since 2019. So it is considered as a World Network of Biosphere Reserves from 1989. So we'll go for the next question. Consider the following statements about the National Green Tribunal. With the establishment of NGT, India became the first country in the world to set up a specialized environment tribunal. Second, it is mandated to dispose appeals finally within 6 months of filing. It is bound by the procedure laid down under the Code of Civil Procedure. So which of the above mentioned statements are correct? Option A, 1 and 2 only, option B, 2 only, option C, 1 and 3 only, and option D, all of the above. Now, while looking at your questions, while looking at your analysis of your daily questions, please look at certain terms which can be really superlative in its sense. For example, with the establishment of NGT, India became the first country in the world to set up a specialized environment tribunal. Now that is a bit of an extreme statement. So that naturally, as a person reads such a statement, there must be a sense of doubt inside his mind. So keeping that doubt in mind, if you eliminate option 1, automatically all 3 options are eliminated and the only option left is option B. We'll go into the explanation as I explain more about it. The correct answer is actually option B, and the explanation is statement 1 is not correct because with the establishment of the NGT, India became the 3rd country in the world to set up a specialized environment tribunal after Australia and New Zealand, and the first developing country to do so. So the statement 2 is correct because the NGT is mandated to make a disposal of applications or appeals within 6 months of filing of the same. Statement 3 is not correct because the tribunal is not bound by the procedure laid down under the Code of Civil Procedure of 1908, but shall be guided by the principles of natural justice. It does not have to follow the specific codes which are followed by the other codes in India, especially the other formal judicial processes. It can follow the natural codes of natural justice to ensure a faster resolution of cases which are filed before the NGT. So we'll go for the next question. In context of hog cholera, consider the following statements. This contagious bacterial disease is also known as classical swine fever. It affects pigs only. One of the most riskiest questions because it's a 2-statement question. Choose the correct code. Option A, 1 only, option B, 2 only, option C, both 1 and 2, and option D, none of the above. So, hog cholera, and you look at the first statement, contagious bacterial disease. There's a doubt. Is it really a bacterial disease, or what if it's a virus? So actually in this case, it is a virus. So we can take option, we can remove option 2. Second, it affects pigs only. Yes, we haven't heard of hog cholera among humans till now, so we keep that also in mind. There is a large possibility if the first statement is wrong. The second statement, it affects pigs only, is quite possible. Or it can also affect animals. Again, it's a really difficult question to tackle, but please understand, hog cholera affects pigs only. Going for the explanation, we see that the statement 1 is not correct because classical swine fever is also known as hog cholera, and it's a contagious viral disease of domestic and wild swine. The statement 2 is correct because unlike the swine flu, which is commonly known as H1N1 virus, H1N1 disease, which attacks humans, classical swine fever is a viral disease that affects pigs only. It can be controlled by proper vaccination of pigs on time. Yes? So we'll go for the next question. In the context of Darbar move, consider the following statements. This practice was introduced by a Dogra monarch to help in the emotional integration between the 2 diverse regions of Jammu and Kashmir. It is a practice of shifting capitals annually between Srinagar and Jammu. Consider the following statement. Choose the correct code, which is A, 1 only, option B, 2 only, option C, both 1 and 2, and option D, none of the above. So currently J&K has been there's been certain changes. Its statehood has been shifted towards a union territory, and there has been many political changes brought about in the existence of the state of J&K. So we've all learned that J&K has actually two capitals, which is the Jammu and Srinagar, and this question is in relation to that. So it's a factual question, and we must understand that both the statements are right in this context. So we'll go for the explanation. The answer is C. The explanation is statement 1 is correct because this practice was introduced in 1872 by a Dogra monarch to escape the harsh winters of Kashmir Valley and to help in the emotional integration between the two diverse regions of Jammu and Kashmir. The statement is also 2 is also correct because it is a 148-year-old practice of shifting capitals annually between Srinagar and Jammu. The next question. Consider the following statements about styrene gas. Exposure to it affects the nervous system. It is used for manufacturing of fiberglass and rubber. It is found in vehicle exhaust, cigarette smoke, and in natural foods like fruits and vegetables. Styrene, even if somebody has zero idea about this, has read nothing about this article, he can get a clear-cut idea that styrene can be referred to as styrofoam. So styrene has some relation to styrofoam. Styrofoam is somewhat we say as the disposable cups. Actually use styrofoam cups. So you keep that kind of a logic in your mind. You should understand that styrene is somewhat associated with some kind of plastic manufacturing or rubber. And definitely exposure to such gases will affect the nervous system, and it is obviously used for manufacturing of fiberglass and rubber. So taking those two into account, you can say that options 1 and 2 are correct. And looking at the options, it is clear it's either option A, which is 1 and 2, or option D, which is all of the above. Looking at the third option, it is found in vehicle exhaust, cigarette smoke, and natural foods like fruits and vegetables. Yes, it is quite possible. So actually the answer is D, and the explanation for them is statement 1 is correct because the most common health problems when exposed to styrene involve the nervous system, where both the central and the peripheral nervous systems are affected. The statement 2 is also correct because it is a flammable liquid that is used in the manufacturing of polystyrene plastics, fiberglass, rubber, and latex. The statement 3 is also correct because it is also found in vehicle exhaust, cigarette smoke, and natural foods like fruits and vegetables. Go for the next question. Consider the following statements about the National Disaster Management Authority, or NDMA. So it is a statutory body. It is chaired by the Home Minister. These are the two statements given. And options are 1 only, 2 only, C both 1 and 2, and D none of the above. So first statement, it is a statutory body. What do you mean by statutory body? It has been established under an act or a statute of the legislature or parliament. That is what we refer to as a statutory body. It is chaired by the Home Minister. National Disaster Management Authority, it's quite possible it could be the Home Minister, or there is a possibility it could be the Prime Minister. Actually, in this case, it is the Prime Minister. We look at the explanation. The answer is A, and the explanation is statement 1 is correct because the National Disaster Management Authority is the apex statutory body for disaster management in India. And the NDMA was formally constituted on 27th of September 2006 in accordance with the Disaster Management Act of 2005. Statement 2 is not correct because under the Act, the National Disaster Management Authority, the NDMA, was set up under the leadership of the Prime Minister, and the National Executive Committee, NEA, was chaired by the Home Secretary. This is clear? Go for the next question. Which of the following special rights are enjoyed by religious minority educational institutions, or MEIs? And the first statement is under the Right to Education Act, MEI are not required to provide 25% reservation to economically weaker sections. And the second statement, minorities enjoy the right to establish and administer educational institutions as a fundamental right, and MEIs are not considered for special provisions under Article 15. Choose the correct code, or which of the above mentioned statements are correct. Options 1 and 2 only, 2 only, 2 and 3 only, and all of the above. If you take this statement, we'll take each of the statement one by one. Under Right to Education Act, MEI are not required to provide 25% reservation to economically weaker sections. Yes, it's a minority institution. It is not necessary for them. Keep that in mind. Anyway, the second statement is something, it's a part of our fundamental right. So it's clear that minorities enjoy the right to establish and administer educational institutions. So keeping that into account, we can take the option 2 as absolutely right. And looking at that, unfortunately, all the options have option 2. The first statement, keep that in your mind. You can just keep that as also true. You can finish off as option 1 and 2 is also right. And you can remove option B and C. Option D is also available. So then the question is whether it's on option D. What is the third statement? MEIs are not considered for special provisions under Article 15. What is Article 15? It's a part of our fundamental rights. We'll go for the explanation while saying this. Actually, it is not considered for your special provisions under Article 15. Because the statement 1 says under Right to Education Act of MEA, under the Right to Education Act, MEA is not required to provide 25% reservation to the EWS. And the statement 2 is also correct because under Article 30, in the part 1, minorities enjoy the right to establish and administer educational institutions as a fundamental right, and compensation has to be paid if their property is taken over by the state. Statement 3 is correct because MEIs are not considered for special provisions under Article 15. And that is all for the video session today. My name is CB Joy. This is signing off. Thank you.